Welcome CSC230 website development to exercise 15. This is random seasons, and it's kind of a continuation of exercise 14 where we had the 4 seasons with the 4 buttons using JavaScript, except in this one we're going to add a new button and it's going to create random seasons. See, change season. Watch this. Didn't change. Oh, now it's fall. Oh, now it's winter. Now it's spring. Now it's fall again. Now it's spring or summer. Now it's summer. Oh, now it's winter. So there's only 4 here, so it's just changing them random each time. And then what we're also going to do is, don't look because you're going to be doing this yourself. But we're also going to run another function that won't happen on a button. It'll just happen automatically. So if I refresh this, watch this. It's spring. It's still spring. Now it's winter. Now it's winter again. Now it's fall. What's happening is every 5 seconds there's a new image that's displaying. Now sometimes they're displaying twice in a row. That's why it doesn't look like it's happening 5 seconds. But that's happening, so it's happening each time. Now you can also have images that change every time you refresh a page. So if you go to a page a new time, it'll do that. But you could also put it on a timer as well. So anyway, that's just some code down here. Now all we did here was basically use the same code from exercise 14, except take these variables and put them in something called an array. Now an array is just like a list. If you ever did Python, it just puts them in a list here. And what we do is we generate a random number. We make a function here. We generate a random number from 0 to 3. That's it. 0, 1, 2, 3, because computer numbers start with 0. And in our list, the index number, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. So when we generate a random number like 2, that would be 0, 1, 2, that would be fall. And if we generate a random number 0, that would be spring, and so on. And it just pulls them out, and then it basically uses from the seasons. You can see here we're actually using the list seasons or the array seasons, and then the rn variable, which is whatever number comes up. So we're generating a random number and then pulling that from a list. And then we can either do it with a button like I did the first time, and then we could also use this set interval method, which can actually change seasons, and you could put a number of milliseconds. 5,000 milliseconds is 5 seconds, so you could make it change every couple seconds or whenever you want it to change. So just a couple things we're going to be adding here. Now when I did it originally, I actually copied my entire ex14 folder and renamed it 15. Now you can't copy folders in here. You can't even copy files unless you just copy the inside of files. So what I ended up doing was downloading my whole repel and making another folder and just calling it ex15, duplicating the ex14 folder and putting it up here. So you can do that. I guess I could have just continued on what we were doing because that's kind of what I did here, but I'll have you do that just so if you ever had to copy a folder, you can know how to do that. So that's going to be exercise 15, and then we're also going to do it so that on your root file, you're still going to link to it. So for example, if I go back here and I go back to my root, you're still going to have this, and we'll have another link here to exercise 15 random seasons. So then you could go here, and that's going to be the one with the button. And if you go back, there's 14, and that won't have the button. So I guess we could have just added it to 14, but we'll do it this way. That way we'll have a whole new link here for exercise 15, and you could change the seasons randomly, or you can actually have it go every 5 seconds and change. So we're going to be doing that. So all started from scratch. I'll show you how to copy the folder, download the CSC230 repel, and then upload the folder, and then work with ex15. So we'll be doing that next. So I'm back in Replit, and I deleted my ex15 folder so I could start from scratch. And you can't just copy this in here. There's no duplicate, anything like that. But what you can do is you can go up here to your 3 dots, and you can download as zip, and that'll download the entire repel. So everything that's in your CSC230 W1 will download. So I'll do that right now, and it'll go as a zip, and there it is in my downloads. It looks like I had another one there at some point, and I'll just delete the zip folder. And if you're on Windows, you need to extract it. But I'm not worried about this whole thing here, although it is good to have, I guess, a backup of it. But here's my ex14, and I'm just going to copy it. So I'll just copy it and then paste it, and there it is. It's ex14 copy, and I'll just change the name to ex15, and I'll just upload it back to Replit. and I could just drag it right over here and it'll upload everything. Just make sure you don't drop it in another folder, but if you do, you could pull it out. So there it is. It's got the image folder, it's got my index and script and all that. And you can even change this if you need it. You could change the names, or you could leave the names the same, as long as they don't confuse you. But what I'm going to do first is go to my index in EX15 and just change the title to EX15. And I'll call it Random Seasons. And I'll keep my name there. And I don't think I have to change anything else right here. I'll just link it to the same folder. As long as it's in the same directory, these file names can stay the same. And we'll be building a new button. It's not that hard to build, but we'll build a new button. And we'll also go to our root page, our root index, and this is pretty easy. Now, I don't have all mine here, but I'm just going to copy the last one, EX14, and paste it, and just change that to EX15. And I'll call it EX15 Random Seasons. And I could take practice out of there. I'll just call it JS. So now my root homepage will have a link to Random Seasons. Not sure why I have these extra spaces in here, but yeah, I'm not sure why those spaces are in here. So I'll get rid of them. I don't think I need them for any reason. But anyway, that's my index. So I'll go over here and open up my new tab. Now there's my regular root homepage. I'll open it up in a new window, and I'll make sure this works. And there it is. It's the same thing as EX14, except now it says EX15. So I'll keep it on this page, and I'll keep refreshing here. And then I'll go back to index, and I'll go back to my index in EX15. So be careful. Remember which folder you're in here. So I'm in index, and it also says EX15 index. And I don't need this anymore here, so I'm going to move this over. And we are going to build a new button. So as long as I'm in my index page, I'm going to go after nav, because I don't want to take the nav properties. I just want a generic button. So I'm going to do it after the nav. Because if I put my button in here, it's going to be dark green. It's going to take the properties of everything that nav has. So I'm going to go after nav, and I'm just going to type button. Now I already have a class name button, and I don't have an ID name of button. But what I'll do is I'll give it a class name and an ID name of button2. So I'll just put dot btn2, and then I'll do pound btn2, and then I'll even put curly braces, and I'll put change season, and close my curly brace. Well, it is closed, and then right after it I'll hit tab. And that's exactly what I want. Class name button2, ID name of button2, and then I can style these different than the other buttons. I want them just a little bit different. And let's see what I have on the page so far. Probably is just a little generic button, and I just want it bigger, and I want some space in between it. So what I'll do is make a style for that. So remember, button2 is the class, and that's all I'm worried about right now. So I'll go to styles, and I do have this button here, and I'll copy the whole button one, and I'll paste it, and I'll call it button2. Make sure that it's dot button2. Now I don't have to do display inline block because it's not a list item like the other one was, so I could get rid of that. And it's not a color white because I'm going to have it black because it's a generic button, so I'll get rid of that. And font family sans serif, I could have that, but I think it does that by default, so I'll get rid of that. And then there's font size. I'll keep that in there. Background color, no, because I want to keep it my default button. Cursor pointer, I don't think I'm going to need, so I think I could even take that out too. But the padding, 0.6 rem, remember this is top and bottom, this is left and right. I don't think I want it that big, because if I look at it right now, now that I have this, if I refresh this, it's kind of big, so I could make it a little bit smaller, and I'll put some space above. So maybe I'll just give a margin top. And I'll just do 1 rem, which should be like 16 pixels, which should be whatever the default base font size is, the root base font size no matter what. So I'll put that in there, and then maybe I won't have as much space on the top and bottom. I'll put like 0.4, and maybe instead of 2, I'll just put 1.4 or something like that. Let me see what this looks like. And that's good. That's a nice looking button. You can even put a thicker border on, but that's fine. It looks like a button, whatever. If you want more space in it, Margin top, you could put 2 rem. That'll make it go down further. That's fine. And it has a built-in hover state on it already, so that's why it's a button element. So we can use that to randomly change the seasons. These change them based on what they are, summer, fall, winter, and this will just change them randomly. Now, again, that's not that exciting, but I just want to go over how to do this. Now, this is actually very similar to the random SpongeBob characters that we do in the CSC130. So if anybody had that class, it's very similar to the way we do it there if you did that as an extra credit assignment. So coming back to here, I think we're okay. We have our button. I don't think we have to do anything else here. Everything from here on out is going to be in JavaScript. So let's go to our JavaScript. And all we're going to do here is make an array, which is basically a list. And if you're not sure what an array is, just go array W3 schools. We'll use that for our resource. And JavaScript arrays comes up. And it's pretty simple. There's a couple ways to do arrays, and it's like a list. You could do a constant variable and give it a name, and then basically anything in the list is in square brackets with commas in between. And these things are strings, so that's why they have quotes, but if you had variables, they would not have quotes on them. So we're going to use variables. And we're going to give it a name, and we're going to assign it to that list. There's another way where you could actually set it up like this on separate lines, and you can actually put the index numbers in there because the index number starts with 0 and then it goes 1, 2, but it's kind of given if you do it the way we do it. We don't have to do new array, anything like that. We're just going to do it basically like this. That makes it really simple. So watch how simple it is to do an array. We're going to go here and we're going to just put const and we're going to call it seasons. That sounds like it should make sense. So that's the variable name. And we're going to do this. Now, in the past, we used to go var. Now, you can still use var, but const means it's not going to change. So I'll just use const. I liked using var. I had no problem with that. But so the variable name is going to be season or seasons, and then we're going to put a square bracket, and then I'm just going to put sp, comma, su, comma, and make sure you don't put a period or anything like that, and then fa, comma, and then wi. And that's it. Now you could put spaces in between here. You don't have to have them. And I'd recommend to put the semicolon at the end. So that means we have a list that's called seasons, and this is index 0, this is index 1, this is index 2, and this is index 3. That's how they're listed in computers. So we now have seasons. So if I wanted, for some reason, to have the fall one, that would actually be known as seasons, and you put the index number in the square brackets. So if I wanted fall, that would be 0, 1, 2. That would be the same thing as FA. So it's the second index, 0, 1, 2, second index space of seasons, that would be fall. So we'll show how to do that later. So I could really do this. If I wanted the fall one, if I went here and I put seasons, and I put the square bracket and I put 2, that should show fall. And just to see if that works, let me get rid of this, because now I have a new variable called seasons, and that's the second index from that list seasons. And if I go here and I refresh it, if I go to summer, it shows summer. If I go to fall, it shows fall. So it's actually using the correct one. So instead of using FA, it's using seasons and the second index. Now I'll put it back the way it was. Now, we're not going to use that index number. We're going to use a random number. So we're going to make a random number from 0 through 3, and we're going to put that in there. So we're going to make a new function. So actually, I'm going to take a break here, and then we'll finish up with the function. And I think there's 2 functions we'll do. We'll finish that up in part 2. I don't want to make this video too long. So to end this video, to end part 1, the JavaScript we did was basically just creating the list. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to make a new function that's going to basically contact that button and generate a random number. So we'll go through generating a random number, which we'll do through W3 schools, and then we'll do the function, and then we'll do it with an interval as well. So we'll do a couple different ways to finish off in part 2.